now. How's it going, world?
All right, you're on.
So I'm standing here with someone who I first met through him being doxxed. And then second at an event where he was very much on the other side. As everyone knows, I find myself on the left. Gregg Housh here. This is John Camden, Joshua Cameron, Robert Rogers, and 5 other things. But it's Mr. Camden here. And a lot of people on what I will consider and say, kind of proudly, my side, the left, think this guy's a Nazi, a white supremacist, and 100 other really bad words. And, while I see him on the other side of the police lines, and I see him definitely saying things that I disagree with politically, and he sees the same out of me, I wanted to know for a fact, what he actually believed. I wanted to understand the person who was on the other side, and whether he actually believed the things that I was being told he did. And whether he had changed, because it's quite obvious from his past that he did believe some of that stuff in the past, and he admits it. So I started having a conversation with him, and someone said, we should film this. And here we find ourselves. The big question I asked you was, are you really that white supremacist, neo-Nazi, white power, jackass that the people on my side are saying you are, or are you someone who has actually changed and isn't faking it? That's really what I came at you with, right?
Yeah, that's what you came at me with, and
yeah.
I'll answer that. At one time, for a very, very long time, I was involved in white nationalist circles. I had, I had a long life in that sphere, and I would have to say that, I started to see things change in my life. Once when I, started to cut the alcohol off and. My mind cleared pretty much. I would have to say that I started to really feel, like I said earlier, an empty feeling inside. It was more of a call from God. I really do believe that, because my mother raised me as a Christian, and I rebelled against that, and I went my own way. And I started getting involved in Norse paganism and all, and I don't know. Just things felt very empty for a while.
But you had a group of friends that seemed to agree with you.
Oh, yes.
You could, and you really felt like you fit in with.
Constantly reinforcement. Yeah,
right,
it's constant reinforcement. I'm trying to get these words correct, because it's I know it's important.
It is.
I started to see fallacies in the white supremacy movement. I started seeing that, if we are so, as a race, so superior, why are we losing Europe to massive Muslim invasion? I mean, where's King Charles Martel, the hammer? I mean, where are these? Where's the Crusaders? Where are we? And seeing the crime and in inner cities with white people involved in it too. I mean, it's like I couldn't sit there and constantly say that white people are superior intrinsically, and I had to really step back and look at things. And I would have to say that things started to really change during the Trump election, when I started to meet conservatives of all different races, Jewish conservatives, black conservatives, gay conservatives, Hispanic conservatives, of all different groups coming together. And I'm actually standing there having a conversation with a man or a woman that I never would have had before, and finding complete common ground, because we are God's creatures. I mean, we are children of God, and but I truly believe that that's where it really boiled down for me, and I started pulling away from the movement. I started becoming a different man, and I thank God every day for it. But I mean, so are there people on my Facebook page that are still white nationalists? Absolutely. I haven't broken off every tie with friends. I mean, they were still people I knew, but they're very few and far between. Because they can't stand me. A lot of them, believe me, they hate my guts.
So there's the German adage of there's a Nazi sitting at a cafeteria table, and 10 people sit down next to him and have conversation with him, and none of them yell at him or make him go away. So you have 11 Nazis at a table. That's a thing they say publicly. Like it's a kind of common way to say it. So on the left, you're going to run into a lot of people who see you still keeping those friends and not yelling at them repeatedly until they go away or change. as you accepting their way of being. And that's for people on the left, I've run into this a lot because they know I'm having these conversations right now. They know I've had them in the last few weeks. I had dinner with Samson. I had dinner with Patrick. I'm trying to have these conversations, and I'm getting attacked just because I'm having civil discourse.
I think if you really want to break that down, the more I got yelled at by leftists, by those when I was in the white power scene, it just solidified everything I viewed. Everything that I saw was wrong. So
both extremes.
Both extremes. And honestly, there were certain people I can't mention right now.
Sure.
But they're people who I started very early on with the Patriot movement. And these people, one of them is not white, another one is a former law enforcement officer. And both people I would never have talked to. It was always ACAB, fuck the cops.
Right.
With white power, see, man, you do not play with the cops. This is not something you do.
No.
And these people didn't yell at me, even though a lot of people in the Patriot circles didn't want nothing to do with me because of my past. These two people spoke to me and worked with me, talked with me. I'll be like, oh, look at this shit, and I would have sent it, and then they'd be like, well, I see where it's coming from, but let me talk to you about something else. And instead of bashing me, I would have gone right away. I would have been like, yeah, screw this, I'm done. I was right the whole time. But when someone doesn't sit there, disassociate themselves with you, and actually just talks with you, and actually hears where you were, bring their side of the story to the table, it's at your point where you can either go left, right, center. You know what I mean? And I kind of moved. I don't consider. I'm just going to say this. I do not consider neo-Nazism, fascism. I don't believe it's the right wing. I do not believe it. It's, as far as I'm concerned, they're not the right. They're extreme leftists as much as communists are.
Well, sure, but when you get to the extreme right and the extreme left, it's kind of a circle. They start to meet back up.
They start meeting right back up.
You've got that
again.
Center, you've got the libertarians that kind of fall a little to either side, center left, center right, and you've got the farther libertarians. You get to the conservatives, the fiscals, you get to the kind of socialist, the democratic. So by the time you get to that other point, they're the same person, is what I see. And for a lot of it, they just want to go outside and be violent. They get that enjoyment.
I mean, I won't lie. I mean, I love boxing. I love, my father was a Vietnam vet. My grandfather was World War II, and before my great-grandparents immigrated from Austria, my great-grandfather, I believe, was a soldier in the Austrian-Hungarian army. So it's kind of in the blood to be a fighter,
right.
And I will stand up passionately for everything and anything I believe in, no matter what it is. Never, I do believe. And never backing down and never surrendering, even when you're surrounded. And
so that stuff's not the right to you. No. So, but you find yourself on the right at this point, especially at all the rallies where there are rights. So, libertarian, neoconservative, fiscal, like where do you find yourself?
I don't even know.
You don't have a strong label for it yet.
I don't have a strong. I don't really even consider myself a Republican. I don't. I mean, I'm
on the left, and I hate the Democrats and the Republicans.
That's the point. I don't like. I think that they're both. It's
a false dichotomy.
They're two wings of the same bird.
One only exists because the other one exists. They keep each other in power.
The People's Party, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the only real party that should be around, is the party of the American people. I mean, it's standing up for what's best for the American people.
So would you fight for things like ranked choice voting, which, empowers third parties? Would you fight for things like the national popular vote, which gets rid of the superdelegates in the primary system?
I think that's what made America great to begin with, is the fact that we're able to bring all different ideas to the table. Why do we only have to have two parties? Why can't
Well, that's because they've orchestrated it that way to keep their power.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sorry to say it, but it's globalism. It's this globalist, destructive. They want to see the racial hatred. They want to see us rip each other apart because war makes money.
They really like it when the brawls happen at these events too.
Oh, I know they do.
They love it.
It didn't have to happen today.
No.
The fight did not have to happen today.
Neither of them.
No.
You run right to the front door, and you were holding that pole too.
Yes,
you were like, fuck all of you if you want to have it.
Yep.
You will defend your
Yes,
people,
sir.
and I was right there up front too.
Yes, sir.
We were, what's really interesting about us doing this right now is an hour and a half ago, we were at a point where he was literally swinging what was about half the size of a flagpole at me, and I was filming it to make sure I got it on camera if he landed it, and here we are having this talk instead. That's what's really interesting about this.
Isn't that what America used to be? Two guys go in the backyard, beat the crap out of each other, have a beer, and laugh about it afterwards.
So when I asked him to come out here to have this talk, I said, "Can we leave everything that just happened on the battlefield and come out and have a civil conversation?" And he agreed that that's how that needed to happen. So we're having a little conversation. What I would like to do with this is, one, I mean, do whatever you want with the video. I'm happy about this video. The content here is pretty good. But I would like to have a longer conversation at some point. We don't live too terribly far apart. I'm north of Boston, so I'm in Malden, so I mean, it's not too terribly far apart. I would love to have a longer conversation, because the thing I want to understand from our sides, which are very different, I believe politically me and you are very different, but I just mentioned a couple things that you kind of nodded your head along with. There could be some common ground there. It might be thin, but I would love to know what it is.
Well, the common ground may be thin, but I don't see where it always has to come down to a bloodbath.
No.
That's the point. And these, you know, I believe that as long as the freedom of the individual is always held up first, I don't believe that a discourse can't be happening. Like I can't have a civil discourse with a hardcore communist who wants to destroy America, burn the Constitution. No, we're not having that conversation. But if we want to sit down and talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Sure, but there are a lot of people on the left that aren't that guy, you know, and just like there are a lot of people on the right who aren't, you know, what the Antifa say, all Nazis. Like there are shades and nuances on both sides that are strong. I think there's a middle ground that can be found where more interesting conversations could be had, and I would love to have some of those conversations.
I would love to have a conversation with you. Absolutely.
And I mean, a few other people if you wanted, but I mean, I know there's a couple people that I would want to have there as well. I mean, basically like-minded, willing to have that kind of a conversation. You don't get anywhere just fighting. You don't get anywhere with just punches. Unless that ends with a gun that kills the other guy, you don't win. You just find yourself fighting again next weekend. You have to talk. It's the only way to get somewhere of any value.
Well, I really appreciate this, man. Really
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
All right.
There we go.
Awesome.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. I'll see you later, boss.
All right, thanks, man.
You see that smile? He knows what that means. I'm already being called a hypocrite, a mole, a fascist.
What's going to happen anyway?
The fascist
Right?
labor is still around.
Sure.
Wouldn't you like to see it
From the
a
guy who wears
different
the
perspective?
somewhat fascist helmet.
That's not fascist. The fascists were in Italy.
Someone wants to do an interview.
He's in, he's in, he's in.
Someone wants to do an interview.
Everyone just
You know what? All right. I will go to both sides next time. I will come across and I will talk with people on both sides. I believe if it's explained correctly, I believe the police would allow me to do both.
I think so too.
I mean, it's sad that that has to be the thing, but
That's
you know.
my challenge, and I do have an answer for something you asked John.
Okay.
Why he's still friends with people who are white supremacists, and why he doesn't call them out. I have family who are atheists. I don't call them out either. Well, there you go.
If you go to facebook.com/atheist, that's actually me. I'm that much of an
All
atheist.
right, and I won't call you out on it.
Right.
It's your right and your choice.
I
And
believe in
that's
science.
And that's how
You
John
believe in
feels
God,
too.
and that's how this world
I
needs to
believe
work.
in both. I'm an engineer.
Well, there you go, right? Good times. This
don't
was
think-
very
I don't think-
interesting. This was very, very interesting, and I am gonna get roasted for this.
I hope not. I really hope not.
Oh my God.